now we have two members maybe coming in a little bit later on through our meeting. So, would you join me in pledging allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Dick, do I have the chair's permission? Heather wants to participate by phone.
Yes, we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I just wanted
So,
to ask your
good,
permission.
yep, okay, Heather is participating via the phone.
Yeah.
Teleconference, very good. Mr. Della Pasqualdi called, said he couldn't make it. Sarah Stearns is coming in possibly, hopefully by 8, I think she said. And did Scott say he's gonna try to make it? No,
No,
he's
Scott
not gonna, okay.
But James O'Brien is coming in as soon as his wife.
That was it, yep, James is coming in a little later, okay, very good. As to, the minutes, I'll do an overview of the agenda after minutes, so, what's your pleasure on minutes, folks?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 7th, 2015.
Okay, second, all right, is there any discussion, omission, additions? Okay, all those are in favor of adopting the minutes as printed, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. The minutes are unanimously adopted, Kelly. Okay, the overview of the minutes, I assume you all have the minutes. So item number 4 will be design presentation, interior and landscapes. Then item number 5, schedule, design work plan, master project schedule. Then number 6, public comment period. And then number 7, new business and setting a meeting date for a future meeting. Okay, before I turn it over to Chad, this is the first meeting that we've had since our town voted for the new elementary school. And that is a huge congratulations to everybody here and everybody in our town. And I know the work that many of you did in talking to neighbors or friends or campaigning or holding signs and a whole array of things. But wasn't it worth it? So, anyway, again, congratulations to our community. All right, Chad, I guess it's all yours.
Great, thank you, Dick. We have a lot of design presentations on the agenda tonight. We're going to start off with the landscaping design presentation, and then HMFH is going to go into some of the interior spaces. And with that, I will turn it over to Matt or Chuck.
Thanks. So since we did get approval with the town vote to go full force, we've been hard at work, both in our office, but also especially with the consultants and with PMA and also some of the outside players, including the well consultants, et cetera. But tonight we wanted to really show you highlight some of the things that we've been doing. I also want to mention that we've held a long series of meetings with the teachers and Ruby and Liz, and got a lot of good feedback from them about their individual needs for individual spaces. So that'll be reflected in some of the stuff we're talking about tonight. But first I want to start off by handing it over to Chuck Kozlowski from Halverson Design Partnership. He's the landscape architect, and he will show you the current version of the site plan, and he'll go into some detail about the design of some of the outdoor spaces around the playgrounds, the outdoor classrooms, the entry area, the kindergarten play area. And I'm going to hand it over to Chuck at this point. I'll hand you the microphone over here.
Good evening, everyone. Jeez. So, is that the? Okay, so we have 5 slides that are associated with the landscape and the site. And so we can go back and forth on those if you have questions or if you need to get a closer look. This is an overview of the site, and we have some blow-ups of certain areas that help you sort of zoom in and get get a better handle on what some of those areas represent. So you can see from just a quick overview is that we've taken all of the thoughts and the considerations that you had presented previously about the direction of buses, where drop-off might want to be, the playgrounds, the fields, how many fields, parking, and we've this plan has taken into account all of those things. Is there not a little pointer thing? Okay, well, I'll be fine then. To start with, the entrance on the right side, the arrow there, that's where the entrance into the site is. And circulation is in that way and out that way. So drop-off for parents is along the front of the building. And for buses, the circulation is you come in the same way, and then you divert to this fire lane and bus route to the back of the building. Drop-off occurs there, and then buses exit out the left side. For tractor trailers that are coming in or box trucks that are coming in for deliveries would take place at the loading dock over there. You would also come in at the entrance. You would go in.
Chuck, do you want to use this?
Yeah, because I'm a shorty, thanks. Appreciate it. So you would come in this way, and they would go that way, right through here, over to here, back in, and then go out, and then go out that way. So the circulation is all pretty much the same for, in and out for everybody. And all the parking occurs here. There's also some parking right here for parents for a quick drop-off, or if they need to go in for a quick minute. And visitor parking also right along here. Soccer fields, there are 6, and the 2 softball fields. We also have, as you all know, the well is over here, and so there's why this zone is pretty much the only piece of the site that really is left undisturbed. These are the existing septic field. It's a basketball court here. This is pre-K play area, playground with a fence around it. This is kindergarten. This is 1 and 2. This is 3 through 5. These areas here are outdoor classrooms that we can talk about as we get into some of the blow-ups of the areas. And there's some free play area here. And again, the service area is right up there.
Do you want questions now on those, or do you want to go back after we're done?
Unless you have questions, you can jump in anytime.
Michael, he can sit here.
Sure, then can we go back one? So a couple of quick questions. On the entry and the exit, are those exactly the same as what's there today, or are they going to be?
The entrance on the right is exactly where it is today. And the entrance on the left has moved over approximately 20 to 30 feet at the request of this committee last time. And so far, that's where it's remained so far, is over, so that it now aligns with a small access, an entrance, access on the opposite side of it.
So from Route 58, you're saying the entrance is the same, but the exit's going to move?
The entrance is the same, and the exit's moving to the south, about 20 feet.
Clarify that the flow of traffic is reversed from what it is today.
Okay.
So you enter where the exit is going to be, you exit.
I think my question, so maybe I'll ask it a different way, is that, so there's work being done to put in sidewalks and do the road over. Is that going to be taken into account so that when that's done, it's going to match what you need, or is that going to be modified after the fact?
Well, that will be matched with what's needed. There's gonna be a meeting, we have monthly meetings with Mass Highway. Where the curb cut is, has some flexibility on where it can be moved to. We're gonna meet next week with them on that issue, but we're not adding to the Mass Highway project. We're just gonna do an infield design change as to where the final location may be.
Okay. And then on the, could you go over the truck delivery path again? I
Sure,
just had a
Sure thing.
question
Now
on
that I
that.
have this, it'll make it easier.
Yeah,
We're gonna come in this way, and we're gonna take a right through here, straight across, up to here, back in, and then go out.
so is there any concern, I guess, with parents or traffic, and school children relative to that path? Or would it make sense to send them around the school, the same flow? And is there going to be any confusion with them coming in and not knowing where to go? Would it make sense to send them around the fire lane and then back out the same path that the school buses would be going?
Well, so could I just speak to that a little bit? Because we talked about that in one of our meetings, and with recess and the outdoor classrooms, children are
We'll be in the back there.
in the back.
Okay,
So that's why we decided what you had just mentioned, Chuck.
Right. And we're also, just to point out, there's going to be a gate here and a gate here that are closed during the times when buses aren't in the dropping off or picking up. And so that will be a safe haven or a safe area for kids to be able to play.
okay.
There'll be signage to indicate which way the trucks need to go. And I think for the delivery people, they'll get used to it after the first couple of times.
Okay.
And we get deliveries at all different times of the day, so, we tell them what we prefer, but, truckers,
Right.
it's not always possible.
Whenever they can get there. I just, just looked a little confusing cutting across a parking lot to get to the other side.
Mostly it won't be simultaneously to arrival and dismissal.
Mhm.
We're pretty hard and fast about that now because the playground is the parking lot.
Right.
Drive through, so,
Anyhow.
yeah.
And then Michael left, but on the well, I knew we were moving the well, and there was, did that all get finalized as to the boundary of the well, the radius and all that?
Sure.
I know we had to work out a agreement with the abutter. Is that all done?
The easement's in process, so we actually had a call today, sort of an all hands on deck, or yesterday, sorry. The radius has been confirmed at 215 feet. One item that we are looking at now is installing a backup well for redundancy. That'll be located 25 feet away from the primary well. We're going to try to locate that as to minimize any additional impact on the easement to the abutter. But that's the plan that we should have in the next week. So
Okay.
I think there is so the radius is drawn in there. It's just very, very, very faint.
Okay,
and
but
I
it does
don't-
go over the property boundary, I can see that.
Yes. And,
Yep, so we anticipate, I think the easement is for a length of 60 feet and a depth of 25 feet into the abutter as it stands right now.
Okay,
But we're gonna reevaluate that with the backup well.
okay. Thank you.
Could I interject with something on what Dan was saying? I apologize, I just
Go,
walked
Jay.
in, but, I don't know if it's been talked about at all, but I see your concern with the trucks across the lot. Not that I think that's a big deal really, but I do see the concern with it. And has it ever been thought of to maybe off of, is that Road Chance Court, is that what that's called?
Yes.
But like to make an entry off of that way right there where the deliveries probably go in for Mamma Mia's anyway. And it's a quick sort of area where you could pull in and then back right up and have complete minimal, impact whatsoever, really. And I'm not looking to add something now because any addition would be a cost, but even looking in the future that,
We
Yeah.
did discuss that at length at one of our meetings.
That's correct, and that's a private way with Chance Court as part of that. And we did talk to them about the possibility of using it for just truck delivery, and that was something they were adamantly opposed to. From a transportation standpoint, it would make a whole lot of sense, you're absolutely correct there. We just don't own the property.
Right.
Mike, we discussed also a third cut in the curbing on the new highway, right where that loop to the truck docks.
off of 58.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awful close. I mean, I just was thinking, trucks, another cut in the curb and go right in there and back in.
Have a truck delivery.
What was the reason? We had a reason for
right
that.
lane.
Yeah, it's not recommended to have curb cuts within close proximity along a main road like this. And where the exit is shown now to where Chance Court is kind of a good distance away. And as that would get any closer, if there's an additional curb cut any closer to Chance Court, it would start to cause traffic concerns for cars
Yep, okay.
turning
I
out
got it.
simultaneously.
On Dunkin' Donuts is right across the street there too.
Yeah,
Slightly
I,
up.
Well, could it be moved down a little, though? You know, I mean, not close to, you have a pretty good distance, I think, between the exit and Chance Court. Could you find maybe a spot in the
Yeah,
middle
but-
there?
The other part of the discussion too was that we have a natural tree barrier there.
Yeah.
And from the roadside, the dock would be
visible,
not visible if
Yeah.
we didn't put
be
it,
cut.
I mean, that was part of the
Mhm.
discussion.
From a truck delivery standpoint, I think what would most likely occur, and maybe Ruby, you've already mentioned this, is the deliveries would just not occur during the drop-offs and pickups of the town, of the students, because Dave and Ruby can coordinate when normal deliveries come. So at that point, you have no one in the parking lot, so why build another curb cut when you wouldn't even have them come during delivery time anyway, because everyone's moving around as the kids are coming in and out of the school period. You know, if there was more deliveries, that may make a whole lot more sense, but the deliveries are limited to justify the need for the expense of another curb cut.
It just seemed awkward that truck's gonna be going through a parking lot. So, I mean, I was just trying to say, is there any options to get rid of that awkwardness? I mean, in the future, we may have to say, gee, this isn't working, we should go with Plan B, and is there a Plan B that you could eventually say it didn't work out, but it just seemed like it was an awkward part of the plan, and maybe there was an alternative. If not, you have to stick with it, but that's why I raised the issue.
Their work hours are.
Dick?
Devin? Yep, go.
Did the truck have the option of driving along front, rather than cutting through the parking lot and still get to the loading dock area?
You're gonna have those raised humps, I would assume?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they would. The larger trucks are not going to have that option because the turning radius isn't going to work. Sorry, that turning radius will not work on a larger truck, but on a smaller truck, certainly. Especially if they're going to happen outside of the normal pickup and drop-off.
Dick, the majority of the big deliveries, massive deliveries, paper, all come in the summer. When there are people there, but not a lot of people.
Okay.
And then the daily deliveries are mainly related to food service and custodial services, and they're smaller
Vehicles.
vehicles. We get milk and we get food on a regular basis. And then UPS will bring
Right, with postal service.
postal service, but they're probably stop in front door and come in just like they do now. So
Okay.
there is minimal, very large scale deliveries during any school year because after we send out the purchase orders on July 1st, the idea is they get in by September so we can have the school, yeah.
Okay.
And there are times currently in the day where if they do arrive between 8 and 8:30, for example, they know they just have to wait across the street. And the same at the end of the day. So, we understand that their hours are early. They tend to be between, they start working at 7 o'clock and they want to have their deliveries made early, but we've been able to get them to the point where they understand between those times they cannot be delivering. And I don't see that they would be going through the parking lot. I mean, they would be going, correct, Chuck, they would go along that bus route and then right through the front of the building.
Well, the bus route's gonna have the big hump, isn't it? It's gonna have a raised
Yes.
table. So the big trucks hitting that raised table is not something that's a good thing to do.
Right, no, I understand that. I just want you to go over the route again.
The trucks are not going back here at all.
Right.
So they're gonna come in from here, along here, and then take this right
Right.
and go straight around to here, back up, and then go back out that way.
It's an apparent drop-off parking.
But Chuck, you could easily have them come in the back row and loop around and to avoid those front parking spaces where the parents are.
You might be able to, this radius, you'd lose some
Yeah.
parking here.
You'd lose some parking, but maybe that's the solution, to keep them away from where you have the parents coming in and out, pick up a sick kid or something like that, in order to
Parking
back
lot
up.
will be stuffed with teacher parking.
Right.
So-
But
so
he's
I
talking to
think-
take a little,
The thing is, parents don't come in and out that often, that when the trucks are coming in at 8:30, they're already gone, so.
They already all know if they're at a place when that's happening too, they have to stay until everything's moved on.
Right.
They know, yeah,
Yeah.
Those trucks aren't gonna be parked there, they're just gonna be
moving.
moving through it.
I think it'll work fine.
I'm comfortable with that. I agree. That's where that's how they need to enter and drop off and deliver. We don't want them in the back.
We don't.
So 2 more questions on the trucks. Is there enough turning radius for the bigger trucks in the parking lot there? If there's all cars parked along there, will they be able to maneuver along there where the cars are parked?
They will. Niche Engineering ran a truck turning radius template for this entire
Okay,
sequence of trucks, buses, et cetera.
We had to remove like 2 car parking spots and just
they
put
would do
striping there to get the radius.
Right, we've lost some parking here
okay.
for that reason.
And then the last question on the delivery part, when the truck is backed in to deliver, the larger trucks, are they completely away from the fire lane, or might be, I can't tell the scale.
It's 50 feet from the inside radius to the loading dock, so they should be outside the clearance of that, outside the fire lane.
What's the length of the longer trucks usually?
50 feet.
Well, trailers are 53, then you got another 20 feet of tractor. I used to drive one.
So the question is whether or not they potentially, if they're backed up to the loading dock, could they block any of the road when they're backed up, or are they far enough away from the road that they wouldn't block it?
They'll usually jack the tractor around. To back the truck into that loading dock, they're gonna have to have the tractor jacked around anyway. It's gonna be interesting to see how they jack it around the other way to get back out.
I guess it's more like, looks like it's more like 70 feet, 'cause this is a 50 scale.
We did the turning radius
Yeah.
based upon
I figured if you had a
the trunk
traffic
depth.
company in there, they must have, because that other radius on leaving, that must be big enough to make the left turn back out the exit road for those trucks. So they must have figured that in there.
Yeah, we did a WV50 turning. It's a program, a computer program that takes the truck
Yep,
size
yep.
and actually shows you
I figured that, yeah.
the wheel positions. And we ran into a couple of locations where there was a conflict with the curb, and we adjusted the geometry of the road to.
And the templates are very conservative, so they're telling us that drivers can do much better than what the template is saying they can do. But the template tells us that we can do all of this.
Okay,
would the template allow for the WB63 to go in there?
I don't know,
I mean, with a good driver.
probably,
We haven't. I don't think we've run it with that.
yeah.
I'm only asking the question because initially we may have some big trucks with furniture and all that other stuff coming in.
You always have the option, if it's like a summer furniture delivery, of going into the front door, which is a little more
Or
straightforward.
the back doors at that point, if there's no kids there.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Front
So the
door will have-
WB50 is fine.
The front door will have double doors with removable mullions, so in very occasional, I understand you don't want to do it every day, but once a year, you need to take that mullion out.
Based on what it is.
You also have them back down the exit in the summertime or furniture deliveries.
Plenty. Yeah, because WB50 is fine for normal stuff.
Okay,
Can I ask a question, Chuck, on the soccer fields? Are those 6 full-size soccer fields, or are they junior soccer fields?
They are junior soccer fields, but they're U12,
10.
U10.
But if four U10s together form one regular size soccer field, so you can
Okay,
accommodate multiple.
so you could set up a full-size soccer field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that would be recreational, yeah. What is that loop, Chuck? Looks like the brown in back of the school,
Over here,
right there. What's that
we're
loop?
gonna get into, it's a play area, but we're gonna get into it, because I can blow it, we're gonna blow it up and look at it in a much bigger scale,
Okay,
okay?
yep, yep.
Any other overall questions? We're gonna go to the next one.
Okay, let's go ahead to the next one, so we can just answer that question right here. So, these are the outdoor classrooms for grades 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5, and also playgrounds for 1, 2, and 3 through 5 here. This is an outdoor play area that is mostly a lawn or some plantings, but it's also very has a lot of contours in it, so that the kids can sort of run up and down the manufactured or man-made slopes that we're sort of looking at here is what that might be. And these areas are what the future. These are the beginnings of what the future build-up might look like. Certainly, we're just getting into DD or in the middle of DD, so we're looking at those now. As part of the base bid, those are basically going to be both going to be lawn areas with a curved asphalt path that's going to run from here to here and from there to there. But in the future, that's what the intent is that it would be. And you can see that we have some ideas of, and these are all thoughts that we've been throwing out. We haven't really gotten any feedback on any of this yet. But the idea is that in this area, we would have an outdoor sitting area with potentially a classroom. This here would be potentially be an outdoor kind of a chalkboard where an outdoor class could happen, and some type of a seating area like this or like this in this zone here. There also would be some mounding in some of these zones here to just create a little bit of excitement in those areas. In here, we're looking more at more of a kind of a seating area like that, where it could also have some type of outdoor instruction there, but you know, it's also a place where kids just can run around, and we're not trying to keep anybody from playing in here. We intend to hear some hard surface and then hear some soft surface for that same kind of thing. And these are just some different ideas of what that might start to look like. All of these here. You know, we had talked about there being some outdoor areas here for potentially an outdoor garden here for plantings. I know the idea was that the kids would want to have some place where they could grow some vegetables or flowers starting in May, and then someone might have to take care of them for the remainder of the summer, but they'd be there in the fall when they came back.
Picking up on the gardens, is there a kind of sense of how that would be cared for and who would be in charge of it?
The Y program is perfectly willing to do the summer care. They enjoy that because it's all of our children that are there all summer,
Right.
4 days a week, which would be plenty. So, and then the science program that we use has several growing units in every grade. So I think that this would just give them opportunity to grow things outside as well as inside in the temperate time of year, so.
Right, and the last time that you were there at the elementary and you explained some of that to the teachers, I had 3 teachers come to see me afterward to say that they'd like to be involved in that process from, helping with the design, talking about it, and taking care of it throughout the school year. So I'm pretty confident that we'll have several folks interested in, and as Liz did mention, the Y absolutely wants to help. They currently have something that they use in the back for a garden, so they would love to take that over.
And the custodians grow tomatoes every summer.
All right.
That's great. So let's go back that one slide that we jumped over. Okay. So, we missed it. Here we go. So, in this zone would be where the pre-K and kindergarten have their outdoor play areas. And this area certainly is the front of the building, the front entrance. And so we have some images of just some ideas of what that might start to look like with some seating, with maybe some different types of pavement colors to bring a little bit of excitement to the front entrance. And these here, both of these would be the green areas that you see here. These are the play areas that are actually play equipment, but these areas here might start to look more like this or this, that kind of thing, where you have a little bit of lawn where there might be some movable furniture, there may be some toys or equipment that's brought outside, that kind of thing.
The pre-K classrooms have doors from the classrooms that go directly to the outside, so they'll be able to go right out to that area.
So the
And
main,
the same with the kindergarten?
Kindergarten don't have doors directly to the outside, but they have the door at the end of the wing.
Yep.
So that would be their route to get out to the playground.
They won't be going to that playground though, right?
They'll be going, Chuck, do you want to point out which one?
for the kindergarten is here.
Okay, so they go out the end of the building to get to that space.
Correct. Absolutely.
Is that because we have 6 classrooms that all will be using that playground area? I mean, if you made doors directly out there from the kindergarten, the 3 classrooms on the other side, which would be what? Kindergarten,
Yes.
they would have to go out and around, so everybody goes out the end and then they can go to that area.
And every
I got
time we have a door in the
Yep.
exterior envelope is
Problem.
it lessens the thermal value of the whole building. It's another point of
And
maintenance. So
lockdown,
we
yeah.
have it at the pre-K, it's only 2 doors for the 3 classrooms.
Yep,
But
yep.
for the 6 kindergarten classroom, we thought it'd be better just to use the end door.
I see.
Could I ask a question about Ruby? Was there any concern in that area that's in between the 2 wings there where you were talking? It seems to come right up close. Is there any concern for kindergarten classes if there's 5th grade recess going on right outside their window like that, or? Because I mean, it really looks like there's no buffer in between that where it's almost that area right outside the windows there seems to be
No.
enticing the kids in a way.
So on another slide, you'll see, James, that the 3 through 5 playground is on the other end.
This
Okay,
is
so
just
that's-
kindergarten here.
Yep.
On that side there,
Yeah.
in between.
That's,
Right here is an outdoor classroom space.
Okay.
So it's not intended to be a run around in crazy kind of a
Okay.
place.
But kids might run around waiting for the bus, in the afternoons, and
Right.
things like that, so it'll be conducive to exercise.
I thought it was extension of the playground kind of thing, though, so, okay, thank you.
It's
Well, we can
intended
go back
more
and look at
for
the-
educational use.
We can go back and look at the playground too. In fact, we'll probably see it when we go to the next slide. Let's see, here's the playgrounds for 1 and 2, and then 3 through 5 here. And the idea is that this is going to be an asphalt drive around, and we're thinking that this is going to be resilient type pavement, so that when the equipment is on top of it, if there's a fall, it's a good, it's a place for someone to fall and not, it potentially lessen the issue of having a broken arm or leg. And this would still be asphalt, but we're looking at there potentially being colored asphalt so that all these different kinds of shapes sort of fall through. And we're not looking at colors like this, but the idea is that these shapes would fall through here. And so the idea that this is a fire lane would kind of disappear, and it would become more of a play area or an outdoor area for the kids.
Imagine we put striping on it for Foursquare or other.
Correct. Mhm.
So it's a good way to use the asphalt that we already need, but double function for play purposes. We don't have to build a whole nother hardtop area.
And in that, I think the last slide, or the second to the last slide, we start to show some of the ideas of what the equipment might start to look like. These are some of the newer types of equipment that you're able to get these days, and it's pretty nice, very sturdy. You know, these kinds of things here can get 5 or 6 kids on it. So instead of having a typical swing that takes up so much space because of the fall zones required in the area that you can't play within, you know, the zone, these types of things here, you can get a lot more kids playing within the square foot that takes up. And, you know, there's some different climbing structures that we've done in a number of different locations. Just trying to show a couple of different companies that we used and what those things might start to look like. There's another one, too.
You can also build a slide into the hill on the other side, can't you?
The hill in the back,
Yeah, you know, like on the soft side. I mean, you can also,
we could.
yeah,
We could.
I've seen that on a lot of
Mhm.
playgrounds. That way the kids don't fall down the stairs. They just walk up the hill.
Sure. I mean, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the swing space he's talking about, his swings are so complicated because you have to have the entire arc of the swing, and then you're supposed to have a knee-high barrier that no one crosses into the swing zone. That's where most of the accidents hurt.
Yeah.
Kids get knocked down
So,
by.
so for the amount of area that a swing set takes up, it's not like the days when we all grew up. It's all different. And so the amount of area that a swing set takes up, it's for 2 kids, and we've sort of lost a lot of this area just to have 1 or 2 swings. So there was one more. So here's some other ideas of what some of that equipment might be. Some of this is a bit generous for what we have here for space, but it's the idea is to show that there's some great climbing things that are available that is a little bit different than you were able to get 10 or even 5 years ago.
So there'll be one grade out at recess at a time, the entire grade?
That's what we have currently, and that's what works best based on our current, campus. So I'm looking at this, and I'm actually wondering if that grade 1-2 play area might be switched with the 3 through 5. I don't know, I'm just thinking we might want to tweak that, but your question is, again, we would likely have one class out at a time, but the playground's separated like this. For example, K can have their play time anytime, and they have 2 recesses throughout the day. So that isn't gonna interfere, and when you have 132 children out for recess at once, I mean, that's a lot of children. So, yes, we tend to have one grade level at a time.
So when you say 1 grade level, you mean all of grade 1 or all of grade 5 would be out at one time?
Yes.
And how many classes is that at one time? Is it
6,
6? So it's 6 classes of grade 5, say?
yeah. In kindergarten, 7
And the range is from 122
to
138.
138, yeah.
38.
Because, another way to think about it might be that, if you're gonna have all of grade 5 out, and that's 25, that's probably being generous, right? 25 times 6, 150 or so? No, yeah.
That would be our biggest class.
Okay, so, perhaps that whole area could be, instead of thinking of it as being 1 and 2 and 3 through 5, maybe you think of it as being,
The
that's
playground.
1 through 5, and then if grade 1's out there, they get to use the entire thing.
Right. It's just that a lot of the play equipment is sort of developmentally, I mean, developmentally, you don't necessarily have the same equipment for first graders that you would have for fifth. But
Correct.
I mean, I see what we're trying to do here.
Mhm.
And there would be combinations of, I mean, right now, the way we have it, it's separated for a reason, so that the grade 1 and 2 play area, the design and the playscapes, play equipment is for younger children. In that other natural play area, honestly, I see older children accessing that just as much as younger children, you know, so I think that's a huge
This here,
advantage to have that,
Mhm.
yep.
I've sort of see a lot also that some of the kids who are in grade 1 can deal with grade 3 or 4 level equipment, and some 3 and 4 grade level, you know, want to go to 1. So sometimes if you go to a playground, we don't really have a playground that's designed for just 1 and 2-year-olds, I mean, excuse me, first and second graders. It spans a bigger range. So that's why I just threw that out there, but I
Okay.
understand what you're saying, but sometimes we have a bigger range. We're really only talking about a range of 4 years, and that's not really, or 5 years, and that's not really that big of a change.
Okay, so let me ask this, in the school, for example, in New Hampshire, did they have separate playgrounds for those age groups?
It was separated, kindergarten had theirs, and then the upper grades had
Okay.
another one.
The other thing is the PE classes will be using the outdoors a lot, but they can be on the other side with the
Fields.
soccer fields and
Mhm.
the baseball fields, because they do a lot of fitness trials and things like that. And we do have a fitness trail back through the woods, and they want to maintain that, which I think will be something, because it's not a place where you're going to be building things anyway, so. So I think the play spaces will be used continuously all day long, either by PE, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
And another question for you
We
about,
only have one gym now, we had two before.
so you were involved in the Fairhaven, the East Fairhaven Elementary School, correct?
Yeah,
So
our
I've been
firm
to
is-
that playground. Then that's, is that a 1 through 5 playground, as far as you can remember?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah. At Bresnahan, which was a similar school, did they have separate playgrounds?
Yeah, there was an area for the K and pre-K on one side, and then there was a bigger area for the rest of the school.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not uncommon to group grades 1 through 5 together. And you might have pieces within the entire area that are kind of legitimate on one end of the range or the other end, but our
A higher
experience,
step up, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
most kids are pretty good. My children, I know, go right to the older kids' playground equipment all the time.
Well, and when you go to most town playgrounds, they're intermingled with all ages, and I think that's kind of what you're saying, that developmental will be there, but it will be on one unit instead of separating
Within
it.
a spectrum.
And I think honestly, no matter what we put in there and what we determine to do, tag is still the #1 game at recess, so they're just gonna be running around everywhere anyway.
Right, so in the end, right, so where we're at right now, that whether it's the 1 through 2 play area or the 3 through 5, it's all
Together anyhow.
together anyhow, yeah.
We give you more flexibility
Yeah.
to handle the large crowd.
I mean, right now, we've been showing it as 1 and 2 and 3 to 5, but I'm just suggesting that we could make it just combine it.
I think most of the schools I've seen now, that's the way they've gone.
Yeah.
And you're right, the kids sort of identify their own
Mhm.
skill level.
Yeah.
you know.
I like trying
Okay.
that equipment out.
You're gonna have a poured surface, so it's gonna make all the difference in the world,
Right.
because it used to be just concrete, and the little ones really can't be on concrete.
Ruby, does that work
Okay.
for you, a combined?
Yeah, I just want to hear from Paula back there too, from Mrs. Foley.
I think, I mean, they're gonna be out there at different times, so it's not really an issue. I don't see it as an issue anyway. The only thing I'm concerned about is the number of square feet that I I think it says 75 per student.
For
For the kindergarten playground, yep.
75 per square foot for students that would be out there at one time.
So if there's 130 kindergarten students out there, there wouldn't be enough square footage. for
This is to
our-
maintain our accreditation as a,
Right. My understanding with that is it's the open space collectively, and Chuck and Matt can.
Yep.
Is included,
Courtyard
yeah.
can count the-
As
Okay.
long as they had access
Phew.
to play in that area.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
even
the same thing
fire
for-
lane,
The same thing for preschool, the pool will be fenced off, so that area has to be sufficient for the number of students we have in preschool.
and I think we talked about that, but remind me, that is it one preschool class per out there at a time?
No, it's.
They're all out there.
Well, the preschool classes, yes, they're likely to be one out there at a time. Right now, that's the way it is, because there isn't enough room for two of them. But, in the future, there could be two out there, but there is also a maximum. And I don't have the language with me, but it might be capped at, is it capped at 50%, you know?
yeah. But I think they're gonna be plenty, because you'd have enough aggregate space to do that. It's just, the only one that might be a little problematic is fenced in with, but, you know, the way they do recess, because personnel too,
Yeah.
you know, some kids are not going out for various reasons, so that has somebody inside, somebody outside, so I think it'll work just
Yeah,
fine.
I do too. I think it'll work.
So you can combine those two upper playgrounds.
What you have square footage for those two playgrounds, the 1 through 5, that'll stay the same though. I mean,
Yeah, I think
it's
it's
just yeah,
just what we call it.
what we call it.
You know,
Right.
the kids will be able to roam
Mhm.
freely across the hard top.
I like it.
Good.
Very good.
Oh, yeah, why don't you talk about that, it's a good idea.
So, a little bit of a more boring topic would be the idea of irrigation. And so I just want to discuss that in the areas that we're showing as being irrigated to make sure that we're all on the same page. Presently, we're going to be using a well, existing well, number one, which is right about there, is going to become the irrigation well. And it pumps about 70 gallons a minute or so. And the areas that we're showing as being irrigated, that well will be able to handle that amount of water pretty much right on, because we can't go much more than that. And with it, because 70 gallons a minute will be able to handle it. So we're gonna be watering the fields, these fields here, all the areas that are planted or lawn throughout here, this area here, the areas that are planted in the front, and the islands, and that there. So all those areas outside of essentially the woods, you can't water over here where the septic fields are, and certainly not in the woods over here or along 58, but all those areas would be irrigated.
Does that sound good, Dave?
That'll be awesome, because, you know, in the wooded areas, they just get pine mulch,
Yeah.
because that's what we have here. And so
Right.
it'll still look nice,
Mhm.
because if you look over at Sherwood Park, it's just a nice pine mulch and by all the pine trees, so I think it'll be a nice transition.
One of the good things that we've been able to do from the last time you saw the plan is we shifted the softball and soccer fields a little bit
Yep.
to get it off the septic fields, because that was an issue. We were worried that we wouldn't be able to irrigate the outfield, and now we're able to do that.
And I think it's much more accessible for students to have the soccer field
You probably have better.
closed in, because
comments
they're gonna go
than
right
I
out of
do.
the gym
Right.
and go there, so.
Those are baseball softball.
Oh, and one more thing that I had forgot to mention was, we're also adding a fence along the property from property line from about here to about there. And it's a 6-foot-high wood screen fence. It's not a continuous length of fence. The idea is that we would have sections of fence, and then we'd have groups of evergreen planting, trees, and potentially some evergreen shrubs taller. Then we'd have another group of fence and another group of plantings. But it's going to start somewhere around here and along here. And that is to screen the building and the play areas from the properties over here.
Can I make a comment on that? I talked to Mr. Walsh one day about that fence, and they were hoping that that fence could be a very early part of the project. Because construction and such, the noise and whatever, and Chance Court and their areas.
We can do that. We can do that for the project.
Yeah, there'll certainly be a construction fence anyway.
Mhm.
We can talk, I think, as we get more into the logistics of whether it's better to put the finished fence in at the beginning, or if there's some risk of it getting damaged or in the way of activities that need to happen. But I think we can certainly have some provision in there.
Yeah, I think they're thinking something visual from the beginning.
Yeah, a
However
construction
that-
fence with,
Yeah,
fabric
okay.
on it.
Yeah.
would-
Yeah,
Alright.
I think a construction fence, given that we're so close to this
Oh, I can see that.
construction
yeah.
of that right there,
Some
would be a
brick
temporary
backs into
construction
the
fence.
final fence, then we're in trouble.
To be
Um,
similar to the fire station, you know, they have that fence, you can't see through there, and it's tall enough.
The irrigation, I don't like spending a lot of money on it, but sandy soil around here, the grass won't do anything unless it's irrigated.
And the well already exists, so that's a big plus.
Right.
You don't have to put in a new well.
Yeah, the cost is in the distribution system.
There's a underground fire suppression loop that's right in that area by that fence site. Would not recommend putting that fence in right away, because there is gonna be excavation pretty much along that edge of it. But we could put construction fences scrum, they'd have to do that anyways.
Does it have to have the underground storage tank for the
Yeah.
fire suppression? And so where's that going to?
That's gonna be. Right in this area here.
Yeah.
The grease trap will also be in that same area.
That's a good place.
Will there be any fencing around the athletic fields?
No.
So-
Do we need, do the softball / Little League field need fence?
None of our existing ones do.
There'll be backstops, of course.
Yeah, the backstops, but
Yeah, but outfield fencing, none of our existing ones do.
There'll be fence around the basketball court? Is that something you're planning, Chuck?
We had talked about a fence on this side.
Keep the balls off the road.
Yeah, so you can see it right there, actually. I mean, you can't really see it, but it's there, it's drawn. So it's a fence on that side.
Those courts will be used 24/7. I can go to the high school at night today, because we got an outdoor one over there.
Mhm.
There's kids playing out there 10:30 at night, neighborhood kids, so they'll be very well used.
So what is more cost-effective, a fence on that basketball court area there, or a row of, sort of a natural barrier of trees or shrubs? Because all we're looking at is preventing the ball from rolling into the parking lot, correct?
But I think you
Well, it's
cut off the
mostly,
visual.
it's
of it.
mostly, it's a barrier for kids who are playing and they get carried away and want to run off the court to try to make a play. And, I mean, you're right up against that
It's a road there.
road.
Right.
Again, my thought with that, Ruby, would be like those after-hour games and all that kind of stuff, you don't necessarily want that blocked off. You
But
maybe
if you're
want that
putting a
more
fence-
Good
visible
point.
for security. What's that?
But if you're putting a fence, that's what I just heard, right?
Yeah, but the fence is a chain link.
Just chain link
Oh,
fence.
okay.
Black,
I understand now.
black
Yeah.
vinyl chain link.
Okay.
Chuck, you want to point out the entrance sign? Or that-
Sure, and there'll be an entrance sign right there. It actually says it Stay right there.
We're not planning on any kind of reader board, but just the name of the school.
The thing is the most effective communication tool in our town
Is that marquee?
is the marquee that you can put parent conferences.
We can put that in as an adult.
Yeah.
You know, we advertise with the basic sign if we're running under budget. You know, I think that that would be one of those items we can take a look at.
Yeah, you don't have to decide till later in the project.
Or we can use our building use, that's how we bought the one at the high school. You know, we charge outside organizations.
Actually, what we did for the fire station is, in the base bid, it requires all the electrical and the structure to be built. And we found out that it was about 4 times as much to put it out to bid than once all the electric's done. We can just go buy the sign after the fact and just plug it in.
That's what I
Right,
mean.
Dave? Didn't we do something like that?
Yeah, the building use fund accumulates very fast at the elementary school because of the Y program. So in less than 1 year, we could put a sign, that's how we got the, but it really is the most effective communication tool
It's a
we have.
manual reader board, not a LED or.
Well, I mean, obviously with the new school, we'd like to go
We
with
would
an
want it,
LED.
yeah, right.
Right now, it's a manual marquee. Yeah.
So, right.
Some
So-
things sit there for 4 months.
Purpose
Last
what's
winter,
there.
Smokey had to climb
Some-
over
yeah.
4 feet of snow.
Yeah.
No, one you control inside from the computer.
8 weeks later, we changed the marquee, right?
But I
So-
can guarantee you that it can go outside of the bid except for the electrical something.
So then what I'm sort of guesstimating is you're looking at a $12,000 to $15,000 cost for a sign like
Well,
this?
for the actual sign, it
Yep.
was 11 something, 11,000.
For the manual.
No, electric,
The one at the high school.
not at high school, that we just bought 2 years ago. But of course, the other expense is
Yeah, all the
the
infrastructure.
infrastructure.
So should we go ahead and include the infrastructure, or should we include it as an alternate?
Well, you're already running the infrastructure, so you'd have the thing lighted
It'll
anyway.
be lighting,
So, I mean, the
Yeah.
infrastructure's there.
that's true.
Yes, good.
All you're doing is just changing the outlet box. At that point, it's gonna
We
be
need it, yeah.
wireless,
Yeah,
unless Dave wants to go out there and, no. Stick out a USB.
Okay.
We do have one of those, yeah.
Good. Any other questions for
I
Chuck?
said one more. What's the bidding process? I'm just curious. What is the bidding process on the landscaping and hardscape? Does one firm come in and bid the whole project, or does everything get kind of divvied up? And I'm just kind of off the top of my head just thinking it would be nice if maybe some of the projects were given to, or at least the bidding process with a lot of local feel to it, so maybe we could have some local people, be able to offer their bids to be able to maybe get some of these jobs. Just
Sure.
throwing that out there.
Yeah, under Mass General Law, we've chosen to go the route of
One.
a general contractor bid. And
So that
so,
would be one firm does the whole thing?
right, there's
Okay.
filed sub-bids, which are separate, but the site doesn't fall under that. So it
Okay.
would be under the scope of the general who's bidding that.
Okay, thank you.
You want to be careful that you don't have too many people on the site and there's some liability issues there. From the fire station project, again, I think the light is a good example where some equipment, we found it was much more cost effective for the town to install that after the fact than to put it into the base bid and have it have its 40% overhead to make the whole thing happen with bid bond and all that other stuff. So there may be some components at the end that we look at, can we do this significantly cheaper another way? I don't know if there's gonna be a lot more than the lights, the billboard, but that's something to take a
Yeah,
look at.
just more curious if it was one. Thank you.
I just had a little question about something that's been added on here, the potential cranberry bog location. Is that just for fun, or what's that?
Yeah, we have been asked to look at potential locations for it. Sorry. We have been asked to look at potential locations, and we're looking at this area here. We're not sure if something that we really want to do yet, or if you really want us to look at that yet. It's these areas where we originally wanted to show it, they really aren't big enough to be able to include that in there and have it be a viable, working cranberry bog. And I'm not even quite sure that this really is, but I think that, because keeping it, the ability to be able to have water in there at certain times that you need to have water, that's gonna take some effort to make that happen. But we've identified an area for it, and we can move forward with that if that's something that people wanna do.
I think one thing, Walter just made a good point, we need to look into make sure that we're not creating a wetland on the site that restricts future expansion growth, if we do go down this road.
The kind of bog we're talking about is a demonstration bog, and it would be contained and not in the ground. There's several of them around the county. So I don't think it would be actually creating an actual bog, but a
Simulated.
simulated with plexiglass sides that you can see the plants growing and things like that. So it's not like the bogs over behind that we're gonna be having our zone one in. So it's not that kind of thing. It'd be a demonstration thing.
Understood. I don't know how protocol law really speaks to differentiate, so it's just something we need to look into.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's something you have to look at.
Carver knows upland bogs and non-upland bogs. We know those pretty well. You mentioned before about, I think, phasing a portion in with asphalt. Can you go
Yes.
over that again and explain that in a little bit more detail?
These two areas are, the base bid on those two areas, there is no add alternate for those. The base bid for those is grass with a curved asphalt walk that sort of takes on a quick little shape like that, but none of all that you see here. And the intent is that someone else, another company, is being targeted to provide those as part of a gift to the school, or whatever it's called. And so we're putting in the base bid, those are gonna go in, and then at some point, or maybe they don't go in, but at some point, that company's gonna come in and install those
After the
pieces.
fact.
We'll provide the full design documentation,
Correct.
then it's done as a separate project.
But unlike these areas, or unlike those areas which are add alternate ones, those are not add alternate ones.
Liz, what's the status of the Makepeace?
I heard from them yesterday, and they're very eager to meet with us. They're bringing in not just the neighborhood fund people, but other people in the company. And I think they really are gonna make a commitment. I don't know what it's gonna be yet, but they're, and we're gonna set up a meeting with them next week. So I think it's gonna be a go, but how much we'll get, I have no idea, yeah.
Because we have $234,000 for the excluded alternate from the project. So that was what the budget was for building that, provided we get funding.
I don't have a hope we'll get $234,000, but we'll get a start on some really good outdoor classrooms.
All right, well, if that's the case then, with that design that's being talked about, if we don't get the 234 to pay for that piece, is the design in a format that it can be phased in for that extra work?
At a later date,
Yeah.
Yeah, we could make it
we'll
that
provide
way.
a base condition that it just provides egress, pathways.
Yep.
Some lighting, and lawn.
Yep.
And then the design will call for the implementation of the further walkway areas, the seating and trees, and any
But-
ornamental.
But I think you're suggesting that since we're not gonna be able to afford all of that at once.
Right, so, I mean, the base bid's clear, the base bid's
Yeah.
asphalt and grass, got it.
So that we might have
Then there's
to-
a full design for the rest, which is $234,000. According to Liz, we may not get that much money.
If you had
Can that-
100, what could you do with that?
Right.
Right.
So I
If
didn't
I
know
could-
there's
if I
a
could
way
just
to
say
phase
that
it.
the-
We're gonna offer them options that they can
Yeah.
pick and choose from when we talk to them.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think it'd
think
be
that,
good to know what it is exactly, or
Job
close
work
to what it is
for
that
it.
they
Yeah,
want.
that 230 is not a number that,
No.
that is gonna work for any kind of Makepeace contribution. Even the Makepeace Neighborhood Fund wouldn't be that substantial, so.
So we'll need to know what that is, because to design something that extensive, it'll never get there even 15 years from now, so why phase it into something that's not gonna happen?
Well, but I did, Linda Burke, John said that she would be really willing to talk about a 3, 4, 5-year project incrementally. So, over time, I still don't think we'll get to $234,000. I know that well enough. But even over time, they have given to the schools in Carver in the last 10 years, $125,000. So you could see where you could make over time, you could add in, and like you say, with the base design, we could do anything there, because most of the things we're talking about, maybe excluding the sitting wall, would be contained,
Well, there's a
structure.
very important question, because John, even with the neighborhood program, and let's say you got it for 3 or 4 or 5 years, what are we looking at per year on average that Makepeace would do? And not saying they would commit that much, but what is the typical plan?
Well, first of all, we have a bid process that you go through, and the bids are basically distributed to company employees to review, make comments on, things like that. Obviously, I like to focus on Carver bids when I see them come through, but they have to follow certain criteria. Like, for instance, I think if the town of Carver wanted something that, they do focus on educational, they focus on agricultural.
Health and Human Services.
Yes, it has to fit a certain niche.
Sure.
I don't think we've ever contributed in any town, substantial money towards, construction. But I think, not speaking for Makepeace, but I think that they want to be part of the process. They're open to hear any requests that the town might have, but, I couldn't put a dollar value on what they typically give out. It's substantial money, but nowhere near the 230.
So what I would write it as is specific parts, like a demonstration bog or a container garden thing, and because to tie in to the education piece, it's all an electronic application, it's very easy to do. And then they can pick and choose which ones they would do. Like, they regularly give Wareham, where they're located, $30,000. Last year, at the discretion of the new superintendent, she could, pick a project to do.
The typical fund is about 150, and that's
Yeah.
spread out amongst 3 towns.
Yeah.
And again, the bids have to follow, the requests have to follow certain criteria.
So I'm thinking that if we got 30 to 40 for a classroom type thing over 3 to 5 years. But then the bargain we'd have to make is that we wouldn't submit any other project request, because that would expend all of Carver's share of their piece of the pie. They've given out over $10 million. So very generous.
Somebody must have thought, the Makepeace company has a materials company.
Reed Custom Soils.
And is that a direction that we could ask for help on something? I'm
I
just
think it's the
throwing that out.
entire company.
That would be part of what the grant program is?
Again, I think in the past, Reed Custom Soils, I think, has donated to the playground. Small contributions. This is a major undertaking.
I didn't know whether some
You're
part
gonna have
of
the custom soils people come to this
Good.
meeting.
Good.
Yeah, oh, that's good. That's what I was basically
Yeah,
asking.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, but this still gets us back to the question, if we have a $234,000 plan, but we may only get half of that money, should we be developing a $230,000 plan? Or should we be looking at some iterative state? And I guess that's the question. If we, even though, we have the 234, that was the number that was given before to build these, but that's not gonna happen. Why we designed to that number? Or should we design it to another
I think we designed
number?
for options that the company is willing to fund. And there's nothing to say that there couldn't in the future be other, for instance, Knife and Sons over in Kingston has a very strong grant program. The same options could be submitted to them. I think that if we go ahead and design, not the Cadillac, but exactly what would be the best options, and then it's easily submitted to other places for funding it, and Knife funds education, so it's, and I've talked to them before about this, and they said, well, when you get the project, let us know, and we'll consider your application. So I think if we have enough options, that companies will buy into the things that they match the best, their funding sources.
All right, so they're right now scoped, or they're planning to develop one master plan for the recreation. What I'm hearing is you're saying that's not the right concept to do, is break it into pieces so that each one of those pieces can be, or mini projects within that master plan concept. So I guess the question coming back to you guys, is that something that's possible within our scope and how we're looking at this?
Well, I'll refer to Chuck, but I think it's a matter of just identifying, bubbled out areas on our plans that can be done as scope number 1, scope number 2, scope number 3, and try to look at them as pieces that could stand alone by themselves if they had to, or could be then supplemented by future additional projects to enhance it further. I think that's the way to go.
Almost more like layers than sections, though, sounds like.
Yeah, you might say, the trees and the plantings are under
Or the
one.
walls or the outdoor.
Yeah,
Because I think this thing is a nice and important one, where you have outdoor seating that's built in with an outdoor chalkboard. That's pretty fun. Or
the gardens.
the garden itself. Those are areas that, or the paving. Maybe that the paving goes in, instead of just an asphalt path, it becomes, more of a colorful paving that fits in with everything else. That goes in first, then the other pieces fall on top of it as you get additional funding. I would suggest that we design this for less money than a 234 after meeting with them to get an idea of what kind of money are we talking about? And because 234, and if they're talking about 120 over 5 years, you're really never going to be able to finish the entire project because you've got other schools that they may want to be funding. So I would suggest that we just design it for less money, which we can certainly do. We have some really nice, it's a great idea, and we can keep a lot of the things that we have. We would just use different materials to get there.
What would you do?
Be successful in getting PTOs and other school groups to donate planting materials for in there. At the other schools I've built, families will buy a tree from memory of so-and-so or whatever, and those things are very small donations. Plus, we have a couple of landscape firms in Carver who might donate trees. I think we could build it, not at $234,000, but I think you could be very successful with donated projects. I know the PTO would do something at the elementary school. They're very successful.
So I think we'll design a master plan that contains discrete scopes and try to identify which scopes we would feel are the priority ones for establishing first, which have the most kind of punch and the possibility of some of these targeted funders, and then enhanced scopes that would build on top of them. But I think it is important to envision this space, these two spaces really, as something happens there, because they are the internal focus of the classroom portion of the building. They're going to take a lot of view. It's really the heart of the outside of the school. So I think to have something happen there, anything, is beneficial than to just be a functional space that you pass through.
So, go ahead, John.
That's a quick question, but the costs for this are not included in the, obviously, the debt that was approved at town meeting. It's not included in the CPC funds. It's completely out of the scope of the whole project.
Yes,
And,
third parties.
yeah, third-party contributions. So I guess, can it be designed with, you can't use savings from the project to go against this cost either, right? Because it wasn't approved by the MSBA.
Correct.
So we're kind of locked to third-party,
It's not part of our bonding part.
third-party contributions. Okay.
This is, in essence, is what it's turning out to be is, this is our wish list of how we want to have that interaction be. And now the question is, how do you package that wish list to allow Liz to go get the 234, as much of that as she originally committed to satisfy that wish list? But it's all third party.
Even though I'm retiring, I'm perfectly willing to donate my time to write the grants, because I've had success with these people in the past. I understand their implications. And the other thing is, I mean, one year we're gonna buy the marquee. But the building use revolving fund, this is what it's for, is things for the building. So, you know, we generate an income every year that you could add some other piece to this from our building use fund. So, it's a dedicated funding stream that we really, it's the Y program, that's their rent, so.
Doesn't some of that funding though cover the utilities from the Y when they're using the facility?
No, because we would have all those lights on anyway for that time of day. It's, in the way it's gonna be working now, is they're not gonna be on when people aren't moving around. And they only really use, right now, the cafeteria and the outside spaces.
What about the YPAC? Does some of that money go to?
They're at the other
That's
building.
separate. It's a separate fund.
Yeah, it's a
Separate
separate fund
building,
too, but
too.
it's a different building. It's, well, it's all in one account, but it's not,
Maybe they would
It's high
share.
school, yeah.
yeah. Well, but you know, you generate enough money of your own. I do think we could get really close to, within 4 years of opening the building, of having a really nice space there.
Chuck, when you develop this and you do have different phases, the phase 2, 3, 4, 5 down the road, that's just a grassed space until that development comes along?
Correct. It's
Yep,
grass.
Okay,
Mhm.
so it's something,
Mhm.
yeah.
We
Okay.
could potentially do some landforms, but it's not in the price, but we could do some landforms there, because we would like to do a little bit of that in the future, so we could do some of that now.
Once if we're doing grading in there anyway, it's just a little bit more to create a small hillock or something, so it might be worthwhile to include some topography now.
Well, part of your plan, your master plan, is
Yeah.
gonna have a phasing component from a construction phasing too.
Yeah.
And I can bring in heavy equipment after the fact.
You could keep a lot of the same components, just different materials, as you had mentioned earlier.
Right. They just can't go in as part of the base. But absolutely. I mean, we're showing, we've been talking about using concrete pavers, or, we could reduce that to concrete paving instead, so it would be poured in place as opposed to a paver. That's a possibility. It would be colored, so it's a little bit more expensive than regular concrete, but we could still do that. So there's ways to reduce the price in here.
Do you feel you have enough direction on that issue?
Mhm. Yeah.
Are we beating it?
Oh, it's clear as mud. No, absolutely have enough.
I would actually, my preference would be to have that as a colored concrete versus pavers for maintenance on, because that is a primary means of egress. It'd be easier for me to keep it clean and salted and everything, as solid concrete versus pavers. That would be my preference. You mentioned the potential to have trees planted as a memorial tree, which reminded me that there is a memorial tree, which I shared with Chuck, that's existing. And Chuck had some input as to his thoughts on the condition of the tree, and
It's just really not in very good shape.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's gonna survive a transplant. A transplant could cost as much as a new tree.
So I had emailed you, Dick, about that tree. Fry is, F-R-Y, is the name on the Derek Fry. So I don't know, we should approach the family if they're still here, if it can't be moved, really. Do you know?
Trying to put together Derek Fry.
Derek, yeah, he was riding a bike on the pond and went through and
Oh, yeah.
passed away. And the family's around. Could probably get in touch with them.
Yeah, so it's something we should do. But we could also just put another tree for him. Yeah,
Maybe they'd be okay with that.
yeah. It's a
Well,
spruce of some kind, isn't it?
It's a blue spruce. It's gotten fairly big.
It's huge.
So I don't know if you replace it with something smaller or bigger. I mean, that would be a discussion that you'd have to have.
Right.
blue spruce do not do well in this area on the long term. I had a
You know, Susan
comment
Green.
or a suggestion that came up from one of the teachers that maybe we consider a place where we could have a walkway and we could take some of those tapestry bricks off the Governor John, clean them up and have a little walkway that would denote the historical value of the Governor John Carver School originally. Something that you might have that you could put into your thoughts, and we could probably do that with volunteer help.
Could we do that around the basketball court? Would be the appropriate location
They're
for the
bricks
old
from the
building.
building?
It would be, we would ask to take bricks and we would take them and clean them all up so they could be used and put into a walkway of some
It's a
sort,
great idea,
or,
and we get asked that a lot about reusing brick material from a building, but it's not really designed for paving material, and it takes up water a lot differently than the bricks.
I was just thinking in terms of some aesthetic area off to the side.
Mhm.
Maybe not a major traffic area or something like
Right,
that.
we can
I
do
mean,
something like that,
it's,
sure.
What
is
about-
there,
What about at the
Jim?
basketball court, there's gonna be a chain link fence and maybe put a half wall of that concrete or something, if you keep it in that area,
we could,
that way?
I
Keep it
I
as a
don't know
wall.
what you
I could
folks
probably
could
come up with some
with.
ideas for us.
But you could,
Like some
just
benches.
something a little,
Okay.
I, I liked his idea, I didn't have a picture of what that could be, but I can see coming over here with my own loader and fill a bucket up, and we'll take it over to my place and chip all the bricks off and clean them all up and get them ready for that particular thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Sarah says a nod to the old school. Well, sure,
Absolutely.
all right, thank you.
Is there a cornerstone on the old school? Because that's something that would be, I think, easier to memorialize.
Yeah, I don't know if there is or not.
What we do have is the plaque, you know, that when it was built and who was on the committee and all that, that could be embedded into something.
Yeah, that can be associated with those.
Yeah.
The governor,
Because
yeah,
of
yeah,
what's
yeah.
on the side.
Basketball.
Well, just something to be in the back of your thoughts.
Sure thing.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
So now I'd like to go inside and just show you a lot of it. What we've done is focusing on individual spaces.
Mouse dead.
I'm doing it. Oh, now you're doing it.
Thanks. Okay. So just quickly, the overall plans, there's really not been any drastic changes that have taken place since we last presented it. It's really just developing some detail, articulation. We start to put furniture into the spaces as a placeholder layout just to check how we're doing in proportions and where entries are going and where features and the walls are going. But really, it's largely the same as it was. There's been a lot of development around the project areas, which were kind of left blank up until now. And we're starting to check seating in the cafeteria. We're putting in mechanical chases and diffusers. We're developing the book collection with a story room and some of the smaller offices for the specialists. So let me just jump into, unless anybody has a question on the overall plans, I'll jump into the individual spaces. Now, the first couple pages, I understand there's been some printing problems, so you may need to look at the screen. The first one we'll look at is the cafeteria and the multipurpose room. And I want to start with the plan that has the two rooms with the operable partition in its closed position and the two different furniture layouts. So this is the cafeteria with its dining, and then a multipurpose room, which will be normally not with seating in it, and it'll be for activities. But we're showing you how many seats could fit in the multipurpose room when the partition is closed as a small kind of performance area. And that we're showing is about 143 seats. And that is all looking at the stage. There'll be a roll-down projection screen within the proscenium of the stage, or the platform. And a ceiling, we're planning to have a ceiling-mounted projector, which will project onto that screen. So you don't need to roll the cart into the space. So that can act as a kind of mini assembly space, even while the cafeteria is all set up as it is. The tables that we're showing in the cafeteria are just a first stab, and we'll be getting more input about the actual furniture that's preferred. But using a mixture of round tables and long tables, this gives us a seating of 285 as we show it. I know there was a request to try to get as many as we could so that you can be ensured that you've been able to get 2 grades per lunch period if we have 3 periods. So I think we're getting close to how many you would need. We'll continue to look at what's the largest number of seats we can get with an efficient layout. But at 285, it's pretty good. And then you can see up towards the top, there's a chair, table, storage room. When this is set up as a dining space, that storage room would contain all the chairs that would be out when you want to have a large assembly.
So Matt, are those tables the kind that have the chairs attached to it when you fold them down?
Yes, that's what we're
Yes.
showing.
Yeah.
I think that's universally preferred.
Yes.
They were like the ones up to the New Hampshire school that we visited.
Yep. You can fold them up
And
fairly
fold them right up.
quickly and just roll them off to the side. And so when the operable partition is opened, so it creates one large space, all of those tables and chairs will then go into that storage room. Not all the tables with its attached stools go into the storage room, and all the chairs can come out then.
Didn't print.
And that has 468 seats, as it's shown now.
So half the school can fit in there. That's good.
Yeah. We could probably get more chairs in, but you don't want to get, there's a point where you get too far away and, the sight lines aren't very good. So it's good to be realistic about how many you can get in there. So the partition that we're looking at is a manual partition that has 2 panels hinged together that then each 2 panels are hinged together, and they get slid out along a ceiling track into position, and there's a pocket on either side where those are stored within. But it's fairly easy to kind of roll them out and then just stack them together and to form the complete wall. And again, we have the gang toilet rooms, which is immediately accessible off of that cafeteria, that double door up there, which would normally be in an open position for school use, but could be closed off and locked so that people don't have access to the rest of the school. There's ramps which come up to the platform, one from the multipurpose room side and one from the corridor side, which gives quick access to the 2 music rooms which are on that end. So they can be staging in the music room and come directly out onto the stage without going into the cafeteria itself. And you can start to see the beginning of the kitchen equipment with a service line. And the students come in from the 2 doorways on the ends and then circulate towards the center picking up their food and then coming out those two larger openings with cashiers on either side, and then continuing out into the cafeteria.
How big is that platform?
It's about, do we know, about 800 square feet. So I'm guessing it's about 25 feet deep by 50 feet long.
Okay,
That's my guess.
thank you.
But it's not a stage,
It's not a stage yet,
because you have to have a whole bunch of different stuff if you have a stage.
right? And there's a whole fire regulations around that. It'll have a front curtain. We could have a back curtain along the back wall if you want that. And then some pretty basic theatrical lighting, maybe one bar of lights or possibly two. One outside facing the proscenium and then one within the stage itself on a fairly, the way we've done it is a fairly simple package lighting system where you have scenes set up and there'll be programs so that you can just choose which scene you want. You don't have to have somebody with lots of expertise to run it. And then there'll be a sound system, a pretty basic but good sound system to go with it. So the next slide is the gymnasium. This will have a poured synthetic athletic floor system. That's the extent of that is shown in the pale blue color. The entrance to it from the schools is up the top. Those three doors there comes directly in off the Learning Commons. There's also it's possible to entrance it through the pre-kindergarten corridor through these doors, and then for after-hours use through these doors here and in here. And again, these doors are lockable so that it can be closed off from the rest of the school. It has the access to the gang toilet rooms immediately within the gymnasium itself. There'll be a divider curtain at the center court line, so it can be run as two different gym stations independent of each other. Full-size basketball court with side cross-court basketball hoops as well.
So there could be two basketball practice games going
Correct.
at the same time?
Yep.
Okay.
There's also, we usually do a volleyball layout, and we have inserts within the floor to put the poles for the volleyball net. I think there was a request for a climbing rope from the gym teachers. There'll be a single bench on on both sides, but in different positions on either side of the curtain. That bench, as we've done it in other schools, can fold up so it's out of the way, or it can be in its down position and provide seating for maybe, about 50 or so people on the sidelines. There's a gym storage room here and a health office in that location. I think that was something.
Yep, that was
Is
a
a VE.
town request at one of the
Yeah.
early meetings. We looked at wood versus synthetic and life cycle durability. Cost, it's actually probably a little bit cheaper than a wood floor.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Dave, I think, had weighed in on that one, and you guys are looking at the same options over at the high school, I understand, so. That's the preference.
Well, up to Christopher McAuliffe School, they had wooden floor, but it was
Bamboo.
bamboo. And the physical education person that I visited there didn't recommend it.
Very soft.
It were, over time, the cracks became catches in the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the seating for parents or kids or anything that are in there, we're looking at, is it similar to the middle school gym? How that has the 50, is that what I'm looking? I'm trying to
still folds out
visually
there.
look at it. So it won't be 4 sets of good sized bleachers. It's gonna be basically, like you said, seating for 50, so seating for maybe 200, is that what you're?
On the benches? No, I'm
So
saying
it's not 4 sets, there's
No.
just legitimate.
one bleacher essentially on each wall.
So it's less than even the middle school.
Yeah.
Middle school has 4 layers on that.
And the size of the gym that we have, we don't have the room to
That-
have pull-out bleachers.
And I don't know, but I mean, I'm just thinking right now, like, when parents go to a basketball game, I would imagine, I should probably go and actually get those numbers to see how many parents show up, but I would just imagine there'd be a lot more.
I mean, we don't have.
Doesn't accommodate.
Elementary school doesn't have, the only parents that attend games are youth basketball.
Yeah.
And we can't build for them. This is what MSBA
Okay, so,
allows, yeah.
Well, Dave, what's there now, like 20 seats now? I mean, there's,
No, at the Governor John, but at the back building is what they use. I mean, we have tiered seating.
Lots of
Right.
seats.
We can seat
Right.
650 people.
850 in there now, but this
Yeah.
will, that won't happen. For any kind of assembly that we have in that gym, the children will have to sit on the floor in order to fit us all. But we talked about that, so I've known this. So for us to have a school-wide, I know you're talking about viewing for a basketball game, so there'll be, like you said, right, some seating, 50, and the rest will have to stand.
Yeah.
well, but a lot of that seating that's in the gym now in the back building is because you don't have another room. So with the multi-purpose room, you now do your functions there and don't need to worry about the
I
gymnasium.
can do them there. It won't fit all of the student body, but seated, I mean, we just talked about that, but
460.
it's really close.
Right.
And the thing about that will allow us to have all the musical performances in that building instead of everybody having to go to the high school. Because that's really not the whole school, it's just, the band and chorus, so.
A few months back, we knew going into this that there wasn't one single space that would fit the entire student body and staff body.
There's probably 95, 100 people at every one of those youth basketball games, but some of them are just gonna have to stand. That's just the way it is. It's a very busy place.
Matt, there's no way that you could, I saw that one bench that folds up at the Christopher McAuliffe School.
Yes.
There's no way that there is a system of 2 benches somewhere, is there? What I'm thinking and where Andy's talking about, maybe the recreation people use it, and there are probably more people than 50, but not 500, not 300. There may be
100.
100.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at that, when we visited there, that ran through my head, because I saw the single bleacher that folded up on 4 sides, 2 sides, but you split it in half, then you're talking a bench on each side
Right.
on the ends. And the end of the big court, the right wall, the exterior wall,
We really are at the minimum overrun distance that you need
Yeah,
at the end of
because
a court.
people
know,
running
they're
out of
running,
bounds and
yeah,
run into
exactly.
something, yep.
It gets dangerous.
Yeah, you want to keep at least 5 feet, so we're
Yep.
kind of at that minimum there. We're a little bit more than that on the sidelines,
Mhm.
so that there may be some room to add an extra, if there is such a thing as a 2-tiered bleacher,
Yeah,
pull-out bleacher.
just to go along with what Andy was thinking, and I thought that when we were at the Christopher McAuliffe School.
Well, does it have to fold away? I mean, why not a 2-tier that's sort of permanent, if that's the case? Is it gonna be that intrusive
If there was
into the
room, but
space?
that takes up teaching space of that gym.
Right, an extra
James.
foot and a half on the side.
We could do it all on one side.
Right, I mean, they have a lot of those 2-tiered
Yeah,
metal benches that,
We would interrupt it. We'd still
yeah, they can
have, we have
I
the
think a lot of
diffusers
them
now.
fold
We
up.
would just keep them
Or-
between them.
some portable
What's that?
benches. Yeah, I don't know, I mean, that 2-tier bench, maybe an aluminum one,
No,
they
it's permanent.
Right, they're aluminum, they're like a ladder, and they, just 2 rows of seats, you double what you've got there, would be plenty.
I was just trying to think of a way that
Oh, I
it
know.
could be.
So why don't we
just
ask Matt to see if he has any other things he can think of?
Yeah, Well,
Right now, he understands we'd like more seating if possible.
Right.
And if you can do it, great. If
Yeah,
you can't,
it's gotta be safety first.
Right.
I agree.
budget too.
budget is ready?
Okay. Great. So now let's go to just the typical classroom. This is the same, virtually the same in grades 1 through 5. It's a fairly simple plan where this is the corridor side. And along that wall, so outside in the corridor, we have the lockers with the cap. These are low lockers. So they can store things on top or display, or the back surface of that we're planning on including some tack surface on the wall. So each classroom has a place outside to display work. But on the interior side of that corridor wall is where the built-in storage goes. And you can get a sense of what that looks like from the upper view. And that wall contains 2 bump outs, which are where the air is introduced into the space. These are the displacement diffusers, as we talked about before. The air comes in low as opposed to down from the ceiling. So you can get a sense of those in that wall, the metal gray rectangles that are depicted there. In addition to that, there's tall storage. This one is the slightly deeper one for the laptop storage, and then another one over here which would have place for the teacher wardrobe in addition to storage. And then in between those, the counter with a sink, base cabinets below it, and upper cabinets above those. So that's really that whole wall that we're looking at. On the exterior wall, you can see the windows up there. You get a view of that here. We have additional built-in open shelving below the windows, and that's a good quantity for each classroom to be able to store their own classroom library and other implements that they might have. So the 2 other walls are open for whiteboard space, the teaching walls. The main teaching wall would be the one along the wall where you come in on the door. And that would have the location for the interactive projector. And then the rest of the wall is open to be populated by a whiteboard, which goes across that wall, and that's what the projector would actually project onto, just a conventional whiteboard. You're also seeing in these views the doors, which communicate between every 2 classrooms on either side. And those can be in their fully open position. And then you're seeing one in the window wall, there's small individual windows, and then every classroom gets one large window which comes down lower, lets lots of light in, and can be the location for some kind of special activity center within the classroom that's next to the light. You're seeing the hanging pendant light fixtures. There's currently 3 rows of those in every classroom. And those provide a little bit of uplight to give some illumination to the ceiling plane, but then are primarily downlighting into the space. The ceiling itself has a slope to it. You can see it's at its lowest point along the back storage wall, and then at its highest point along the window wall. So that allows us to run ductwork parallel to the corridor within the classroom as we need to, which takes up some ceiling space. However, then sloping it up to the exterior allows us to get the heads of those windows pretty high to maximize the amount of daylight that's getting into the classroom. The slope actually helps bounce the light further back towards the back of the classroom, so we're really maximizing the amount of daylight that's being used. In combination with daylight sensors on the light fixtures, we're really driving down the electrical lighting use in the majority of the school when you look at it in terms of the overall square footage. Next.
Could you ask a quick question while you're on the slide?
Sir.
The shelving units there, are they for supplies for the teachers or students, or where do the backpacks and coats go?
Those will be outside in the lockers in the hallway.
Outside lockers, okay,
Yeah.
good.
So all the built-ins on the inside are for the teacher use.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Matt?
Mhm.
That window there, where on the drawing it looks like there's some seating there. That's a full-length window.
You go back.
Oh,
Can you go back
actually,
one?
I'm sorry.
It's coming.
I'm on a different, yes,
This one?
yes,
Yeah.
the floor to ceiling,
Yeah, it comes down to within about 6 inches of the floor.
okay.
Oh, like,
I like that.
Yeah, and it's a place where the students can get up close and be, have a close connection to the outside for that, in that
In the
moment.
science program, there's some mirrors and reflective
Mm-hmm.
experiments that we
Yeah.
don't currently have any light for.
That'd be ideal place for this. Yeah.
Right.
And then next time, we're going to show you some of the exterior development. You'll see how that plays into our thoughts about the way the building elevations are shaping up on the classroom wings as well. Okay.
We're getting there. For whatever reason, slow.
Yes. Next will be the kindergarten classroom. So that's really a similar layout to the typical classroom, except it's about a third longer. It's the same depth, but it's just longer because those are 1,200 square feet as opposed to the 900 typical classroom. Those also have a toilet room within them, dedicated. The fixture size will all be at the heights appropriate for this age. Again, there's storage along the corridor wall. They have student storage out in the hallway in the corridor. These are open cubbies as opposed to the upper grades, which have the lockers with doors. But it's the same width and same space that it takes up in the hallway. So again, you have the entry door. There's a teaching wall, whiteboard, and projector. We're showing a rug that can be included as part of the furniture package, or 2 rugs actually. And then a kind of layout which allows for the student tables plus a number of activity centers within the room, an activity table for the teacher, and then a teacher workstation close to the teaching wall. Again, this has open shelving along the perimeter, and the other walls allow for additional whiteboard space. These also have communicating doors between rooms. And then on the end of the wing, of the kindergarten wing, because these rooms are larger and in the eyes of the life safety code, can have more than 50 people of them just by the sheer square footage, even though they won't actually. We have to treat this to have 2 means of egress. So one means is out the door, and then the communicating door acts as the second one, but on the end classroom, we have to include an egress door to the exterior. But that's just for egress. We won't have hardware on the outside. Next. Pre-kindergarten classroom. It's a similar kind of content. It's just oriented in a long dimension. So you enter in off the corridor on the top. They have cubbies in the hallways as well. In this case, the storage wall is along the demising wall between the 2 rooms. With the sink, the displacement diffusers, the tall storage, and the cabinets. It also has a toilet room dedicated, and a very long teaching wall with the whiteboard and marker, the projector, some shelving along the exterior wall. And then, as I mentioned, they have the doors out to the playground directly, so we provided small vestibule to give good airlock condition. So these 2 rooms access this one vestibule to that door to the exterior. And that door, you'll be able to come in and out that door. Next slide.
Sped.
Okay. The SPED classroom, you'll see, occupies about the same footprint as a typical classroom. It's slightly larger, but it has a toilet within it. In this version of it, which is the social emotional classroom, there's space for what's called the green room. That's kind of the calm down space. The teachers asked that the access to it be off of the corridor, so that's what we've shown there. Otherwise, the amenities are the same with some counters, sink space, some tall storage, laptop storage, projector with whiteboard, open shelving along the perimeter. And this just shows a layout with kind of cubicle furniture and small student tables. Next. The music room, so we're showing the pair of the two music rooms. And these are located at the end of the Learning Commons on the first floor. And they're a double height space. It's good to have that extra ceiling height for the music use. Thanks. So you can flip to it in your package while we're waiting. It was requested that there be some door between the two rooms, and they actually asked if they could have double doors to maximize the kind of movement back and forth between the two rooms. We've looked at that with our acoustic consultant, and because we really need to have the rooms be completely acoustically isolated from each other, using a double door to do that isn't really going to work. So we have provided a door. It's a single door, and it's wider than a standard door. It's 3'6". So there is the ability to move back and forth between the two rooms, but that single door will allow us to get the sound isolation that we need. There's, when you come into the room, you're seeing the teaching wall. There can be kind of two areas set up at any one time, given the size of the room. You're seeing a teacher desk here, and then some built-ins in this area for instrument storage, as well as some traditional teacher storage and counter space. Immediately outside of the music classrooms are two small practice rooms, which have access off of this shared alcove, which gives access all to the music spaces. And you're seeing a very thick wall between the two rooms, and again, that's to achieve the isolation that we want. Next.
Art room?
So you're seeing one of the two art rooms. The other one is on this side, partially shown. These are at the other end of the Learning Commons on the second floor. The entrance is off of an alcove for both of those art rooms, with some display immediately outside of those spaces. So from the Learning Commons, you can participate in what's being created in the rooms. But each room has layouts for tables and chairs with lots of storage along the corridor wall, and two sinks we're showing with additional open storage along the exterior wall. In between the two rooms, we've created one large room which contains shelving for art storage, as well as the location of the kiln. This is something that's a little bit different than what we saw what we had when we talked to the teachers. We had two separate rooms, and there was an issue of being able to get access to the storage directly from each art room. So that's how we achieved that.
This looks good.
Looks good, yeah. That was a good solution.
Yeah. Okay. Next is the book collection. And that is a different color flooring, just to represent the fact that there'll be a change in the material from the linoleum flooring used throughout the school to carpet tile in this space. Immediately upon entering into the space, there'll be a circulation desk, and behind that is access to the media specialist office. The office will have a counter with a sink, but then plenty of space for the other furnishings, perhaps a desk, a table, shelving, and a place for a book drop. There'll be an interior window from that office out into the book collection for needed supervision. Within the book collection space itself, it's a lot of perimeter shelving. We tried to maximize that as much as we could. And then in the freestanding shelving in between, which will be mobile, so it'll be on casters, could be positioned in different configurations. This, they've asked for a setup where there's an instruction area with tables and chairs here, and then one wall with a projector and whiteboard on it. And then we're envisioning another area where there can be some soft seating. There'll be windows to the exterior, as well as some windows looking into the gym and into the story room. And Ruby, I know they asked to be able to supervise from the circulation desk what's going on in the story room. So we're showing some windows there, but we can, look harder at making sure they have a really good sight line into the space. The entrance to that story room is not directly off the book collection, but it's immediately adjacent to it, so that anybody in the rest of the school can use the story room because it's off of the Learning Commons. However, it's closely associated with the book collection and the media specialist. Story room will be carpeted and a bench around the perimeter of it. Next.
Small group rooms.
So the small group rooms are the other major kind of repeated module of space, and you're seeing those two rooms on this side. There's a slightly smaller version, which will accommodate up to 8 students, and a slightly larger one, which can accommodate up to 12. There'll be room for specialist desks within that, as well as plenty of shelving and whiteboard and projector for each of those rooms as well. Those rooms all get windows to the exterior and have lots of natural light. This is the suite of offices for the, it's called the collaboration suite, but it includes the literacy and the math specialists. So there's an office for each of those, as well as one literacy teaching workroom and one math teaching workroom, each with enough space both for the teachers and a group of students to work together. And then that will have one open shared meeting space with one wall for a whiteboard and projector and some storage along another wall.
Can we have that literary center instead of literacy suite?
Yes.
I looked on there, it doesn't say sweet anyway.
Yeah, we try not to put that in writing. Center is a good word. I like that. Project area. Okay, so again, there's a project area outside of each grade. They vary in size a little bit. This is a version that's showing kind of the largest size, but they all have the room for the similar layout with the tables and some perimeter shelving, some counter space. Some of them may have a kind of enough room to have like a soft seating area. Some of them might not. But what we're seeing is some low counters here, which will provide storage on the project area side, but then lots of display space and workspace. A lot of three-dimensional work can get set up there. Science projects can be out on display there. So as people are walking back and forth, it's a really great interactive tool to involve everybody in what's going on. You're seeing a layout with tables and stools. These tables are type that can actually lock together and form a larger group table. There's a counter over here for demonstration purposes, so a teacher or educator can stand behind it and be working on something. There'll be power provided to that. I lost my screen again. And they can be doing class demonstrations as the students are looking on. There's also a wall, if you notice on the top of that picture, that'll have the projection screen and a projector and a whiteboard. Over here are base cabinets with a sink, upper cabinets above. Over here, a counter that you can pull chairs up to. There could be computers set up there. And then some book shelving in this built-in. That's where there can be portions of the book collection can be housed here temporarily for specific subject that's being studied, and some taller cabinets around that space. And you get just a little bit of sense of how that's shaping up in that three-dimensional view above. And then lastly, just an overall view three-dimensionally looking down at the second floor of the Learning Commons, seeing the 3 project areas on that floor, populated with their built-ins and furniture. And then the book collection here, the gym, looking down on the other end, the cafetorium. In the center is the lobby with the gathering area on the first floor. And then on this end, the gathering area for the second floor. This gathering area is immediately adjacent to this project area, while this gathering area is close to the project area on the first floor. In between all those project areas, again, are the small group rooms with their windows looking out. So, and that's where we are at this point. Any other general comments or questions? And if not, I can give it to Chad. Okay.
I just have to say, wow, it is fabulous. It is taking such nice shape. So much of what we have talked about, we've talked about it, articulated this to you, and you put it into a very well developed design. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I think meeting with the teachers was really helpful for us, just to get that level of input, confirmation of some of the things that we thought they wanted, and then adding in some other features that we hadn't thought of.
And they were incredibly appreciative, because they were asking for hard things like outlets.
Yes.
Matt, it's interesting as I look back at the Christopher McAuliffe School and some of I can picture what you're telling us a lot better because I was up there.
Yeah.
That's good. I get a good picture of what that is. So.
So I'm a little confused, Ruby. Do you like it?
I haven't been this happy in a long time.
I'm teasing you.
And excited, just so pumped for the kids and the teachers. It's exhilarating to see how it's all taking shape.
When the teachers heard we were getting a kiln, they went, oh!
Small things that can make a difference.
Yeah.
But I can also see where requirements of the state fall into these different categories. Space-wise, number of kids, all those things fit into it too. So it isn't just, well, it's nice and but it meets the requirements of the state too, and they're paying for 60% of it, so we got a lot of things there we have to do.
All right, thank you, Matt, very much. We appreciate your efforts to date and keep up the good work. Next, we're going to talk quickly about the master schedule. This is, for the most part, the same schedule everyone's been looking at for the past year or so. The black bars below the activities are the baseline schedule that we first agreed upon, and then the green and red bars are the current scheduled dates. So if you look all the way down to the construction windows, we're exactly on target, no deviation at all. So good news there, and we'll drill down on the next slide to some of the key dates that are in the schedule that you really want to look out for. So in early February, we're looking at a design development drawing set being issued. That set's going to go off to the design review teams and the estimating teams. Estimating teams will do their initial estimates. We'll have the list of value engineering options, and then we'll have an estimate reconciliation, and then ultimately that all gets submitted to the MSBA. After that, in April, we'll be doing the same thing for the 60% design set, and then again in June for the 90% design set. The MSBA's final review of the design documents happens at 90%. We do submit them 100%, but at the time we hit 90%, it's considered to have gone through the MSBA steps. Once we have their feedback incorporated, any additional value engineering incorporated, input from this committee, and the estimates reconciled, we will put the 100% design package out on the street on August 19th. First, we'll have the filed sub-bidders, so a period of roughly 3 weeks, and then we'll have another 3 weeks for the general bids, all leading up to a notice to proceed for a general contractor, hopefully by or around October 1st is our target right now. So those are the key dates to watch out for. And then on the next slide, you can see this is HMFH's design work plan. So it shows you the detail and the sequence that this group will be working through each of the design components. Today we did interior and landscaping. The next meeting, which is scheduled for January 25th, we're looking at exterior building and exterior building systems and security. And then you can see the other dates, or you can see the scope that we're going to overview, but we don't know the exact date. If possible, I'd like to lock in some of these dates today, get on everyone's calendar and schedule sooner rather than later. Understanding that the school committee, it's the second Monday of each month, Liz?
No, it's the first Monday of each month.
Oh, first.
But if a Monday is a holiday, then it becomes the second Monday.
Okay.
First and third also.
No, we only meet once a month.
Okay.
I mean, occasionally we'll have a special meeting during budget time, but, yeah.
So, you're looking, Chad, at the week of January 25th, or did we already we set that?
We
didn't
set that date, yeah.
The 28th?
25th.
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 It's not I don't know if
Okay,
it's
so
posted or not,
that's,
but it's.
that was, we already targeted that, right?
Right.
Yep.
That's set. So you're looking for 2 dates in February.
Yep, the week of February 8th, and then again the week of February 22nd.
So
So that-
February 8th is the school committee meeting.
Okay, so February 9th is a Tuesday. Would that work for everybody?
What's the selectmen's schedule?
Second
About the
and fourth?
Wednesday.
That should work.
Wednesday?
February 9th, February 10th.
February 10th, Wednesday. Is that good?
Yep.
The next one would be the week of the 22nd. How about Monday, the 22nd?
It's
That's
kind of in line with
No.
what we've been doing, right?
Vacation, it's the week after vacation week, so it's
Okay.
fine.
Is it?
That's
So is
good.
that Washington's birthday?
It's the week after.
Oh, it's the week, we now celebrate it
Okay. So
as the
then
third Monday.
the two that we're looking at now are the 10th of February and the 22nd of February. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want March set too, Chad?
Sure. March 14th would be a school committee meeting, right?
No, it'll
It's
be
on the
7th.
7th.
Yeah.
So,
Would that be a selectmen's meeting Tuesday, Michael?
We can do Monday the 14th.
Yep, okay.
so Monday the
So
14th.
3/14 works?
And then on the second page of the design work plan in your handouts, the next week that we'd be looking at is the week of April 4th. Because Monday, April 4th wouldn't work, so Tuesday, April 5th.
I don't, no, that's not gonna work with selectmen. How about the 6th?
What's that, the Wednesday?
Okay.
April 6th is Wednesday.
Yep. Okay, 4, 6. All right.
Do you want to go all the way through July, or do you want to just take it a couple months out?
It's probably good
Why
right
don't we
there.
go to April because
Yeah.
Okay.
that's pretty busy for us. Town meeting,
Yeah.
election, all those kinds of things.
So what I'll do is I'll send you all the concert dates for May and June,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
because that
22nd.
affects a ton of people who have children in them.
Yep.
So I'll send you all those
Okay. Great.
tomorrow.
So we're out there till April 6th.
On January 25th, we have a safety meeting right at 10 a.m. And then we have an additional meeting that night. Is that correct? Oh, no.
Sounds correct.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Safety for the school, Dave?
Yeah, town department meeting, we have from 10 to 12. And then we're
10 to
gonna do a
12,
night
yep.
meeting of this committee.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. And that is all we had for everybody tonight, unless there are any questions.
Okay, so we've taken care of the design work plan and the master project schedule. Okay, very good. Public comment period. Okay, public comments. Anybody? How about Fran and Fran? No? All right. Do we have any new business that we need to address? So our new business is somebody to make a motion to adjourn?
One quick one, though. I
Yep.
do have contact information for the Fry family. I don't know who I should give that to. Do you
Dan,
want?
why don't you and I talk about it afterwards, and
Okay.
you can tell me what you think's the best way to do it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that'd
I'll
be
get
great.
that to you then.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, before I take the vote, I just want to make sure we congratulate the town once more as we move forward on this beautiful new school for our elementary kids. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?